Welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. We've had a lot of great shows in the past year. We're coming up on a one-year anniversary, but tonight we really have a special one. But before we bring on tonight's special guest, let me bring on one of my co-hosts, former Florida A&M National Championship quarterback, Al the Rattler Chester, and voice of FAMU on the radio broadcast basketball and football. So let's bring on our man from Jacksonville.
What's up, Les? How's it going, buddy? Happy hump day from Jacksonville, Florida, man. It's hot as fish grease, but we staying hydrated.
Al, what is fish grease?
Fish grease. We'll let our guests tell you what fish grease is.
Well, we've got a great one tonight. We've got an amazing guy. We've got a pioneer. We've got a legend on tonight's show. So before we bring on tonight's special guest, let's have Tony run the opening reel.
And Williams going deep. Sanders beats Haynes. Sanders out in front. 80 yards, touchdown.
Hello, sports fans.
Whoa. Doug Williams right on stride with Sanders.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was one of four TDs this gentleman threw in Super Bowl 22. So, Swartz Talkin Sports is proud to bring on Super Bowl 22 MVP, all-around tremendous quarterback, Mr. Doug Williams.
My man, Doug.
Hey, good evening. Good evening. How y'all doing?
Hey, Doug.
All right, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Good to see you all.
You remember
Good
that
to see you
touchdown
too,
pass,
buddy.
Doug? You remember that one?
You know, that's the TD that got everything to rolling.
That's the one. You guys were down 10-0 in that game too. People
You know,
forget
you
about
know,
that.
you know, and Al, you would appreciate this. That's supposed to have been just a regular 7-yard hitch pattern. And
Okay.
Mike Haynes came up in a press. And you know, we used to practice press no help. If they don't have any help, you don't run the hitch, you run by the guy. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, you're
I
going
tell
to
you what,
lead
it's
it
a
off.
pretty ball, man. Excellent ball, man. I tell you what, Doug threw one of the prettiest balls that I've ever seen, man. I tell you what. But listen, Doug, I mean, hey, man, let's get this thing going, man. Take us back to Zachary, Louisiana, where it all started for you. Tell us about other sports that you played and how you got into football, and just catch us up from there, where it all started back in Zachary.
Yeah, Zachary, Louisiana. That's where I'm from. That's where I was born and everything. And I played all three sports in high school. I played basketball, football, and baseball. Track was out the picture. I couldn't run, so I ain't running on track. But I was made to play football when I was like 8th grade. I thought I was Pistol Pete. If you remember Pistol Pete, when I was 8th grade, I thought I was him. And baseball, you know, I thought I was Don Drysdale. I was a pitcher. So baseball was my first love. And but I played all three. And when got to be a senior in high school, got an offer to play football and baseball at Grambling. And I went to Grambling, and Coach Rob at that time was everything. He was Grambling. And the president at Grambling that particular time was the baseball coach. So when I got there, and when it was time to play baseball, the press came to me and told me, because my oldest brother had played baseball, he was a pitcher for Grambling way back in 1961 to 64. And the president told me that I couldn't play because Coach Rob told him that I had to go to football practice. And Coach Rob said, if you're going to be spring football, I need my quarterback in practice. And that's why I can play baseball.
Okay.
And spend those 4 years there, man. I was redshirted. Spend those 5 was the greatest 5 years of my life, you know, because I went in there as a boy and left as a man. And I had somebody like Eddie Robinson as a mentor and a coach, man, that went a long ways. And my oldest brother was probably the greatest mentor for me, because I always wanted to be like my oldest brother.
Well, I tell you what, Doug, you played with some great players during that 4 or 5 years that you were there, man. Talk to us about some of those great players that you. I mean, I think about Sammy White and some of those other guys, man. I tell you what, some great football players.
Man, the time at Grambling, I played with guys like Sammy White, James Hunter, Dwight Scales, Ezell Bills, Robert Big Hand, Big Hand Johnson, Robert Barber, Ezell Bills. I mean, I'm talking about guys. All these guys went to the NFL back then.
Right.
You know, I remember in 1974 when I was a freshman, I played against Walter Payton and Robert Bazile and Jackie Slater at Jackson State. And they had 9 guys to get drafted that year, and we had 9 guys to get drafted that year. And I think you understand that because Florida A&M was in the same boat that we were. We were having 4 and 5 and 6 guys going to the league during that time, man. So I played with some guys that I know that probably could have played in the NFL for a long time if they'd been given that opportunity.
Doug,
Right. It's all about that opportunity.
Doug, when did you feel that you got on the NFL radar? When was it when you were at Grambling, then you said, you know something, I think I got a career as a pro quarterback and I could be drafted really high?
Well, you know what happened? You know, the scouts used to come by Grambling just about every other day. And that was a guy from San Diego Chargers by the name of Bob Norman. And I took to Bob took to me. So every time he came, he used to give me stickers to put on my books, you know, my book cover, San Diego Chargers. And everybody who came there started giving out stickers. But my junior year, you know, he came to me, he said, next year I might be looking at you, you little stump jumper. I said, okay, Bob. You know, and at that time they gave me some incentive to do well going into my senior year. And then my senior year come around, I had played well my sophomore and my junior year, and my senior year came around. And then the scouts started coming to the school, and then it was all about Doug Williams, and Carlos Pennywell, and Robert Woods, and Mike Moore. You know, all these guys, what we was doing at that particular time. And as the season went on, more and more came out. I remember my SID, who was College A. Nichols at that time, you know, during the summer, he called me summer of my senior year, and he said, hey, we're going to put you up for the Heisman Trophy. You know, I laughed at it because, you know, I was playing softball that summer. And he's talking about the Heisman Trophy. I can put the Grambling. You can't put me up for no Heisman Trophy. And lo and behold, he did it. And at that time, you know, there wasn't no guy. Walter Payton had finished 7th, I think, in the Heisman Trophy a couple of years before me. And I ended up finishing 4th in the Heisman Trophy, which at that particular time, I thought that was almost unheard of. A small black college in Louisiana got a guy that finished 4th in the Heisman Trophy. And you know, I remember that like it was yesterday, man, to be able to be in that position. Earl Campbell won it that year. You had a running back from Oklahoma State. And you had a tight
Billy
end
Sims, yep.
No, it wasn't Billy. It was from Oklahoma State.
Okay.
I can't think of his name, but you had a tight end from Ken McAfee from Notre Dame. Those guys finished 1, 2, and 3, and I finished 4.
Wow, you're going back. Ken McAfee.
That's big time. That's big time right there, man.
Well,
Ken McAfee is a dentist today. He didn't play long in the NFL. He's a dentist today.
Well, Carlos Pennywell actually got drafted by the New England Patriots. I'm a Boston guy, and he went to the Patriots.
Third round.
Third round Patriots.
Right.
So you get drafted, and we're going to have some questions. So the viewers out there, Doug's going to be with us for a bit, so settle in and get your questions ready for Mr. Williams. But so you get drafted by Tampa. You go the 17th pick, I believe, in the first round. And your first recollection of John McKay, who had been ultra successful at USC, built a juggernaut, but you're coming into a situation, Doug, where that team was just awful. I mean, they had lost so many games in a row. And now the pressure's on you. You're the first round draft pick. It's up to you to turn this team around. What's your take on this whole thing?
Well, you know what? When I went to Tampa Bay, you know, it wasn't about how many games they had lost. It was about the opportunity I had at that particular time. That's to play in the National Football League. And when I got to Tampa, man, and ran Coach McKay, and he started calling me Dougie, and, you know, played with a bunch of guys that had went to USC. That was the good part. David Lewis, Batman Woods, Bradowitz, and Danny Reese, all those guys that played for Coach McKay at USC. Mike Ray was the backup quarterback, and they knew who he was. And, you know, I didn't, but it wasn't long before I found out, because Joe Gibbs actually was on that staff my rookie year too. He's a running back coach, and he's the only guy that came down to Grambling to see me. He was the only coach to come to Grambling. And he came down, we spent 2 days, and he went back and he told Coach McKay that if you want a franchise quarterback, you got to draft the kid from Grambling. And Coach McKay took heed, and that's what happened. And I went in there, you know, my first year, the general manager at that particular time, I don't even think his name because he was mean as a rattlesnake. And he told me I wasn't going to play my first year. It's going to take 3 years before I play. And, you know, when the game kicked off that season, I was starting quarterback. It was that easy, you know. But John McKay was probably my biggest fan at that particular time. And I had guys like Jimmy Giles and Isaac Hagan, who had went to Southern University. I played against him. Jimmy Giles was on that team. I played against Jimmy in college. So we became brothers, man. And that first year, we ended up winning 5 games. That was 3 more than they had won in the last 2 years. And in my second year, we ended up in 1979 winning the championship and going to the championship game and getting beat 10-0 by the LA Rams.
I do remember that game. So real quick, before we keep this thing going, we do have some questions right away. We got a lot of viewers out there tonight. So let's welcome back Joni, the chat girl. Joni is back. I don't have to ask questions anymore. So Joni, we got some for Doug. So let's rip them.
We do indeed. Actually, this chat box is just lighting up with questions.
All right.
I've got about 7 of them queued up here. So,
okay.
Doug, this one by Doug Callahar. Was Morris Owens or Kevin House your go-to guy?
Oh,
Mo was there when I first got there, and Mo was the guy who ran the deep routes, and then you had Larry Muck on that team. Both of them went to Arizona State, Fresno State and Arizona State. Morris Owens went to Arizona, and Larry Muck went to Fresno State. And those were my receivers at that particular time. Then Kevin House came a couple of years later. And he was the guy that, if you want to go deep, you call the house man. And the house man delivered, So he was it was that guy. And Mars was the guy when I first got there. And he's the guy that we had to go to most often.
Great question, Doug. All right. And I know Doug grew up a Tampa fan. I know that, Doug. So that was a good one from Doug to Doug. All right. So let's go, Joni, let's get another one in there.
Okay. John Irwin asks, what was it like playing under the legendary coach Eddie Robinson, and how did he influence your career?
Good question, John.
Man, you know what? I wish, it was easy to explain what it was like playing for Coach Robinson, because it's one of those situations you almost had to be there to understand that it wasn't just about football with Coach Robinson. It was about being the man, being an American, being able to survive, being able to provide your family and do things like that. He wanted you to be not only a good student, he wanted you to be a good American. He wanted you to go to church. He wanted you to graduate. He wanted you to go out there and work. If you don't play football, he still wanted you to go out there and be able to survive in America.
Good question, John. And before we go to the third question, Joni, I got a quick question for Doug myself. Doug, you grew up in the age just like Al, when there was segregation, and a lot of the HBCU schools at that time were producing tremendous talent. It's not like that today, but back then, like you said, some of these teams are producing 6, 7, 8, 9 draft picks. Were you being recruited by any other school that we call like maybe a Power 5, and was it a different position, or did anyone come looking at you when you were in Louisiana?
Well, first of all, Louisiana didn't integrate actually until 1970.
Wow, okay.
So, back then, being a black quarterback, they weren't looking for black quarterbacks at these other schools, at the SEC and the Southwestern Athletic Conference, at the Southwestern Conference at that time. That's when Arkansas and Texas was in, the Big 12. Probably up in the Big 10, black quarterbacks were playing. Mm-hmm. But Kendrick Holloway, if you remember, was the first black quarterback to play in the SEC in 1972. But they weren't looking for guys like myself to play quarterback. If you was a wide receiver, in 1970, you might have got a chance. But before 1970, you wouldn't have got a chance. So, no, I wasn't recruited by those guys. It was Mississippi Valley, it was Jackson State, it was Tennessee State, and it was Grambling and Southern University. Those are the schools that recruited me.
Their loss. All right, let's go to another question, Joni.
Okay. Barry Smith, he asks, welcome, Doug. Well, he says, welcome, Doug, first. And then he asks, first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. We all know that. You earned it. How did it feel?
Wow. You know what? When I went to San Diego, and I always say this, I didn't go to San Diego to be a black quarterback. I went to San Diego as the quarterback of the Washington Redskins, who just happened to be black. And I think that was the best way to look at it. That's how I took it. I knew what color I was. I looked in the mirror every day. So I knew exactly what color I was. So that was the biggest thing.
Good question, Barry. Do we have any more, Joni?
Oh, of course we do.
Of course we do. Let's roll them.
Okay.
Roll them out.
Rob wants to know, what's your opinion of the 3 top rookie quarterbacks this year?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh man, I tell you what, it was what, about five of them came out this year. You know, you had the guy we have, Jaden, you got Kelly Williams, you got Penix, you got JJ, and then you got Bo Nix. So you had about five or six of them came out, and I thought it was a good class. And I certainly like our guy, and I like Jalen. I'm gonna say Caleb the way he plays. Love Michael Penix. Let me tell you, I saw him live when they played down in New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl against Texas, man. And the kid could spin the ball. Left-handed too. You know, it's hard looking at a left hand. I call him wrong-handed, but let me tell you this: he could spin that football. He know how to spin it. So this is a good class come out. And I think at the end of the day, you won't know what this class is all about until probably 2 or 3 years. You know, it's kind of like that class in 1983 when Elway and Dan Marino and Jim Kelly and Eason and all those guys. It was 6 of them that came out.
Yeah.
And Todd Blackledge and all those guys. At the end of the day, it's 3 guys that separated that became Hall of Famers in that class.
That's right.
And that's what we got to look at here. And you won't know tomorrow. It's going to take you 2 or 3 years to really know what you really have.
And the funny thing is, out of those 6, the last one ended up being arguably the best. Dan Marino was the 6th pick, 6th quarterback taken by the Dolphins late in the first round. So that was even ahead of Kenny O'Brien, which surprised me. Real quick before we've got so many questions. We got so much going on. A lot of viewers tonight. Al, why don't we talk to Doug a little bit about, you were Tampa, you built that program. You go to the NFC Championship game where you lose to the Rams, and then I'm not in Tampa myself. I didn't know what happened there. And, you were there for about 4 or 5 years. What happened there? And then you ended up actually going to the USFL, which was a league that I loved. And I'm not going to say it resurrected your career, but it gave you a good opportunity to showcase your skills where an NFL team could pick you up.
Well, I spent 5 great years in Tampa playing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Love that team. Love that town. I wish I could have been there a whole lifetime. I wish I could have ran for mayor there. But you know what? Things don't work out like that all the time. And after 5 years being a free agent, the free agent wasn't like it is today. Free agent, if you're a free agent today, you're a free agent. But back then, being a free agent don't mean you was free. If I had to sign with any other team, that team would have had to give up 2 number 1 draft picks. So nobody was going to sign you, so you didn't have to worry about it. And we couldn't work out a deal from the contract standpoint. And it didn't even worry me because at that same time in 1983, I was married and my wife passed away. And when she passed away in 83, football didn't matter to me, whether I played or not. I had a daughter who was 5 months old. And the most important thing to me was making sure I took care of my daughter. And I wanted to be a coach anyway. So I spent 1983, I didn't play not one down of football. 1983, I spent the whole time being a substitute teacher at my brother's junior high school. Every day I went in to work as a substitute teacher. And then the USFL was playing that same year in 1983, and a team out of Oklahoma, the Tatum, Bill Tatum Sr. and Bill Tatum Jr. called me and asked me, would I come and meet them in Oklahoma? And me and my agent, we went to meet them. And, they offered me an opportunity to play with them in Oklahoma. I say, sure. It wasn't about the NFL. It was about an opportunity to play. I love playing football. And played in Oklahoma for a year. We moved and went to Arizona for a year. And then the following next year, the teams folded. No more USFL. And guess what? Only one coach called me. You know who that was? Joe Gibbs.
Joe Gibbs.
Yeah. Joe called me and he asked me a question. It was funny because he said, hey, Doug, I want to know, could you come to Washington? Because Joe Theismann had hurt his ankle that 85 year. So he was done with football. And they had Jay Schroeder as the starting quarterback. And he called me and he asked me, he said, could you come to come to Washington to be my backup quarterback? And I told him, I said, hey, coach, I could be any up you want me to be because I don't have a job. So I went to Washington. I never forget flying into Carlisle, Pennsylvania and watching them practice for a day. And the next day, went through the physical, put my uniform on, went out there with the second team. We ran plays against the defense. And, I had a great group of guys that were running routes, man. And we cut the defense up. They couldn't believe we cut them up. running plays from the other teams, man. And from that day on, that's history from there.
What was your relationship like with Jay Schrader?
You know, people say, you know, me and Jay had a bad relationship. We didn't have a bad relationship. What it was, you know, every decision that was made, that the coach made the decision. You know,
Right.
Jay didn't make the decision. I didn't make the decision. Coach Gibb made the decision who was going to play. Now, did we go out and have coffee together and a summer roll? No, we did not. It wasn't one of those type of things. You know, we passed each other in locker room and stuff like that. But we both knew what it was all about. It was about competition. It was about wanting to play. And we all knew only one guy could play at a time.
I know there was a lot written back in the day that you guys had that, you know, acrimonious relationship, and you know, but you know something, when you're competing for the same job, you know, you do the best to beat the other guy out. It is what it is, and may the best man win.
Well, you know, we give the media something to talk about. You know, even if there's nothing happened, they're gonna write about it and make it seem like, because if I write about it and somebody in the next town read it, they don't know it's not happening. They just read a good story. The only time that was a discrepancy between Jay and I was the championship game in New Jersey playing the Giants, and he got woozy. Lawrence Taylor hit him, and he got woozy. And Coach Gibb sent me in. When I was on my way in, he waved me off the field. That's the only time that, you know, if it had been anything between us, it was that time, because that's something I never forgot in my life. Never been waved off the field before, so that was new to me.
And you were halfway on the field when he waved you off.
I was about 10 yards from the huddle.
Yeah.
All right. That doesn't
The
look
one
too
thing
good
about it, when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Well, you know what? I say the worst thing in the world for a backup quarterback to do is to say that, and you know, that I'm not going to play. But for me, I'd always been a starter, number one. So my mindset probably was a little different from a lot of guys who end up being backup quarterbacks. I've been a starter all my life. That's the first time in a backup role. So, but the mentality is you never think like a backup. You got to think like a starter.
Right.
So even
Absolutely.
though you don't get the reps doing practice, every rep that the starter take, you take it in your mind, and that's what I did. So when it was time to go, I was ready to go.
Well, we have some more questions from viewers. And if this is your first time checking out Swartz Talkin Sports, hit that subscribe button, like us, comment, let us know what you think. We have Doug Williams, Super Bowl 22 MVP in the house. Let's hit Joni with another question.
Okay, we've got a lot of questions, so I think I'm going to cherry pick here a little bit.
All right, cherry pick.
So, yeah, Dr. Albert Chester II. Sounds familiar. What is your most memorable moment with Coach Robinson?
Well, you know what? In December 11, 1977, in Tokyo, Japan. I remember that's a long time ago, right? We was playing Temple University over in Tokyo, and we was down with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We was down 28-32, and we got the ball. We had 85 yards to go. We marched the ball all the way down, and we got to the 10-yard line. And at that time, I was tied with, I don't know if you remember, a quarterback by the name of Dennis Shaw. Dennis Shaw had thrown 38 TD passes, the most that ever been thrown in NC2A history. And I had 38 TD passes the same year. And Coach Rob called timeout. He called me to the sideline and he said, okay, what you want to run? What pass you want to run? And I said, nah, we're not going to pass it, Coach. We're going to run it. He said, Cap, you need one pass to break the record. I said, I know that. I said, we got to win this game. So he said, well, what you want to run? I said, let's run 37 sweep. He said, you want the running back? Well, the starting running back was on the sideline at that time. I said, no. Leave him there, because if he come in the game, they going to know we're going to run. So he didn't go in the game, and we went in there and we ran 37 sweep. And this the honest God truth. They dropped 9 guys in the end zone. They rushed 2 and dropped 9 in the end zone. And Floyd Womack went in the end zone untouched. And we ended up winning that game. We ended up winning that game 35-28. And after the game, we was in the dressing room. And during that time, the same time that game was played, the night before, you know, 2 nights before, they had the Heisman Trophy dinner in New York. And, you know, they supposed to invite 4 guys to dinner. and I wasn't invited because we had set up a jet and all that to fly from New York to Tokyo if they had been invited, but I wasn't invited. And Coach Rod walked in the dressing room. He said, I don't give a damn what anybody say. He said the Heisman Trophy winner is in this room. And that's the highest compliment that anybody could pay to me or anybody else.
Well, Al, that is such an unselfish thing what Doug just stated there. You know, most guys, or a lot of guys, would want to go for the record and throw the ball. You wanted the win. You're a team guy. You wanted the win.
It's all about winning. I don't care how you cut it up. At the end of the day, it's all about winning, and the records will be broken. Because I'm going to tell you what records is all about. I left college tied with Dennis Shaw as the greatest TD thrower in the history of NC2A. 38 pads. I had 93 TD pads. That's the most anybody in NC2A ever had. I had 8,400 yards. That's the most anybody ever had. And I look back on it now, I coached a guy at Grambling named Bruce Eugene. Bruce Eugene left Grambling with 1,300 and some yards passing, 140 TDs. So that lets you know what records is all about. They're meant to be broken.
They are meant to be broken. All right, that was a great question. Let's get another one in, Joni.
Okay, John Irwin, can you discuss your work in the Redskins Washington Commanders front office and how you've approached player development and scouting?
Well, yes, the thing about it, the last 4 years, the last regime that was there, I'm not going to even call the name, whatever, I'd already been there. I'm going into my 11th year in Washington. I had already been there, but this guy came in and, he had his own plan. And he moved me completely out of football. So I left football and started working with the president, just doing stuff with him and being around, being with him and being his assistant, being his advisor. I did that. But when this new regime come in, you had a guy that came in that respect football. He respect guys that play the game well. And Dan Quinn, is right now, since Joe Gibbs, Dan Quinn to me is one of the best things that happened to the Commanders at this particular time because he want to win. He want a brotherhood. He wants something like we had back then. He want all the players to band together, go to lunch with each other, eat, know who you are, and make it a brotherhood. Along with Adam. Adam Peters is the general manager. They came to me and they say, hey, we want you in football. And they brought me back. And now, it's a lot more work in football than it was working with the president. I can tell you that. And what we do now, like I told you, I just got here before we came on. I've been in meetings since 8 o'clock this morning, going over all the guys that play in the National Football League, all the preseason games, because what we're trying to do is get a list of all the guys who next week, unfortunately, is going to be the time when, cut down time. And everybody going to have players that they're going to cut. So we trying to see the players that we might lack, that if we have an opportunity to pick, put them on the practice squad, on the 53 or whatever that fits. That's what we've been doing the last couple of days.
All right. Well, John, we were actually going to ask Doug at the end of the interview, what are you up to now? What's your position with the Commanders? But we kind of
I told you somebody was going to beat us to it.
Someone did beat us to it, Allie. You were right. Well, listen, Doug,
Yeah.
I know we got about 10, 15 minutes left of this interview. So what I'd like to do is let's talk about the Super Bowl. Our producer has cranked up a couple of nice video reels here on some of your touchdown passes. You go into that game against the Denver Broncos, the AFC champs, John Elway, quarterback from that draft class you were talking about in '83, the 6 guys. Pretty explosive offense, a very good defense. Carl Mecklenburg, Rulon Jones, I think Randy Gradishar was a linebacker for that team. What did you see out of Denver, and what did you think you could do to exploit that defense on the back end?
Well, first of all, let me say this, and we wasn't cocky or anything like that, but in our mind, we was 2 different football teams. Denver was a finesse team. I mean, even they scored 10 points off of trick plays and stuff like that. And even the defense was a finesse team where they were running stunts and doing everything. But we was a power team. At that time, you played in the East. They call that the East. If you come out the East, you're a beast. Because it wasn't nothing finesse about playing against the Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, and ourselves and the Eagles. Wasn't nothing finesse about that. But we went to Denver. We went to San Diego, knowing one thing, from a physical standpoint, we had the best team. Our front up front, the Hogs, from Jake Jacoby to R.C. Thielman to Russ Grimm to Mark May and Rollo McKenzie. We knew we had the team that could mow them down with Donnie Warren at tight end. And then I got the posse. I got Ricky Sanders, Gary Clark, and Art Monk. And then I got Timmy Smith in the backfield. Well, we was cocky from the standpoint that we knew it, but we didn't go out and tell everybody that we're gonna win this football game. Because Thursday practice, coach had to call it because somebody was gonna get hurt. That's how much ready we were, because the way they was hitting in practice, and we hadn't even played the game yet, we couldn't continue to do it that way. Coach had to call the practice. And then on Saturday morning, people don't know this, but on Saturday mornings, I didn't even go to practice. I woke up with a toothache. And so I went to the team dentist, Dr. Barry Rudolph, and he called one of his friends in La Jolla, right outside of San Diego, went to his office, and they did a 4-hour root canal on me on Saturday before the game. So I didn't even practice. And when we got back from the dentist's office and got on the bus to go to the Lawrence Welk Resort where nobody was out there, all night long, I just had a root canal, and I had a bag of Hershey Kisses. I always ate Kisses the night before the game. And I'm trying to wonder, how am I going to eat these Kisses? and I figured out a way. I was around looking at the playbook. So instead of eating it on my left side where the surgery was, I ate them on my right side. I finally got all them Hershey Kisses in and, finally went to sleep, woke up the next morning. I can promise you, not 1 ounce of pain, no pain at all. And at that time, it was ready to roll. Went to pregame meal, got on the bus, drove into Jack Murphy Stadium, just thinking about all the things for me, being the first black in the Super Bowl, all the things that I went through. I always say that, I traveled roads that was less traveled to get to where I had to get. And, I thought about all the things that has transpired in my life, all the people that have helped me to get where I am today. I thought about all my teammates in Tampa, thought all the teammates I'm playing with. And all that was going through my mind as I was riding the bus into Jack Murphy Stadium.
4 touchdowns in 1 quarter. First quarterback to do it. I mean, and like you said, down 10-0 in the first quarter. You guys absolutely blitz Denver. I mean, they don't know what hit them. I mean, you guys were just bombs away. And Ricky Sanders, I believe, was another USFL, ex-UFSL player, right? And you had Kelvin Bryant on the team, another ex-USFL player. So you had some representation there.
Oh, ain't no question. We had some good players that was already there, and these guys come from the USFL. And, we worked well together, man. It was one of those things that everything we did. Timmy Smith ran for 204 yards. Ricky Sanders had 195 yards, 193 yards reception. And, anybody could have been MVP that day because our defense that day, John Elway was handicapped. Our defense had 3 interceptions. The one thing we did, we went there with one thing in mind, and that was not to let Elway out of the pocket. Force him to stay in the pocket. Force him to throw from the pocket. Because, he was most dangerous when he got out of that pocket. We used to call him John Wayne. When he got out of that pocket, it was over with. So we had a spy on John Elway. Wherever he went, Alvin Walton was right there with him. Barry Wilburn had 2 interceptions, and Brian had 1 interception. So and Dexter Manning and Charles Mann and Dave Butts and Grant and that defense was on John Elway like white on rice.
Well,
Doug, I'm gonna call some names. And in 10 words or less, tell me what comes to mind when I call a name. Jimmy Giles.
Jimmy Giles, man, is just like a brother to me. And in Tampa, he was the man. When I needed something, all I used to do was walk to the long line. I say, homeboy, he knew exactly what I was talking about.
All right. Eddie Robinson. Eddie Rob.
Oh, man, bless his soul. Coach Robinson is the guy that, the reason why I'm sitting here today is because of a guy like Eddie Rob. If it wasn't for Coach Rob, I don't know where I'd be today. I appreciate everything he did for me because he was more than a coach.
Joe Gibbs.
Man, Joe is the most spiritual individual in this whole world. And, this is going to take more than 10 words. I'm going to say this because in 1987, we played a preseason game in L.A., the L.A. Rams. And when we got back to the airport in Dulles Airport here in Washington, they came off the airplane. Joe Gibbs and Bobby Belter was waiting on me at the bottom of the airplane. And he told me, he said, hey, we just made a trade. We traded you to the Oakland Raiders, at that time, the Raiders. I said, oh, man, I think it was the L.A. Raiders or something. I said, okay. He said, look, come by my office and we're going to talk about it. I said, okay, coach. I went to my apartment. I packed every little piece I had. I packed it up. I called home. I called Zachary. I told everybody, I said, hey, guys, I'm going to be a Raider. I was always a Raider fan. I said, I'm going to be a Raider, man. I'm going to play for Al Davis, man. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I went to the office, and Coach Gill was in his office. And I walked in. I'm grinning like a chess cat, man. I'm grinning so hard. I'm like a jackass eating tax. You can see every teeth in my mouth. That's how happy I am. And he looked at me and he started laughing. He said, ha ha, I changed my mind. And I looked at Coach Gill. I said, Coach, you can't change your mind. And he grabbed back in his chair and said, hey, I don't work for the Raiders. I work for the Washington Redskins. And at that time, when he did that, I just sat back in the chair, man. I was just deflated. I was deflated. So I just sat back. He said, look, and this is the honest God truth. If God is my witness, he told me this. He said, look, he said, I think somewhere along the line, you're going to come in here and we're going to win this thing this year. At that time, that didn't mean nothing to me. We hadn't even played the game. He's talking about winning the Super Bowl. We hadn't even played the game. But he said, we're going to win this thing. I got up, left, went downstairs, and put my clothes on and went to practice. And the Super Bowl, man, after the Super Bowl, this is the honest God truth. When the game was over, I walked off the field. Didn't even know Coach Rob was there, number one. Coach Rob was sitting in the tunnel. We hugged each other. We both was crying. We threw more snot than any little kid be throwing. We both was crying. And then I walked in the dressing room, and Coach Gill met me at the door, man. And he told me, he hugged me, and he told me, say, I told you, didn't I? I said, yeah, Coach, you did. I mean, that's, when you talk about spiritual, there ain't nobody better than Coach Gill.
My last one, James Shaq Harris.
That's my brother, man. I talk to Shaq every day, man. Every day. Shaq is a guy that played quarterback, before me. I got to take my hat off to him, because if it wasn't a Shaq, it wouldn't be no Doug. And, him and I started the Black College Football Hall of Fame. We started the Grambling Legends. We started a couple things together. We worked together. We talk every day, man. And if it wasn't for Shaq, man, I don't know what I'd be. I'd just be just a personnel guy at the Washington Commanders. That's all I'd be.
And also the Harris William Foundation. Tony, our producer, was able to put that up there for you. So you're in that foundation with James as well.
Right. Yeah, we do a lot. We try to do a lot of things, for a lot of people. We have that dinner down in Atlanta every year. We have a game in Canton. And to be honest with you, not this weekend, it's next weekend. We got the Black College Classic in Clinton. And then we got the Legacy Bowl, where we give young men who the senior who had exhausted their eligibility that we think are good enough to go to the league, which we know they are. A lot of them should have already been in there, but we don't get that thing anymore. We got to make sure that we start it again. So we had a Legacy Bowl where these guys play a game down in New Orleans, and that's in February. And we got 100 guys. And we get the coaches from the winners of the conference. Whoever wins the SAC, the SIAC, the MCIAA, and SWAC. Whoever wins those coaches become head coaches, and they can bring 5 coaches with themselves, and they coach the team. So that's what we do. We try to give everybody an opportunity.
Well, Doug, I can speak for Al when I say it was a privilege to have you on the show. You were outstanding. We got a lot of views. We got a lot of questions out there. You are a pioneer. You're a legend, and you're a Super Bowl winning quarterback and an MVP at that. And much success with your position with the Commanders this year. I hope Jalen Daniels lights it up for you guys and you surprise the NFC East. And again, we really thank you so much for coming on tonight's show.
Thank you for having me. Al, take care, man. Everybody.
All right, Doug, take care, man.
All right, that's Doug Williams. We'll be back with Al Chester, and we're going to be doing the HBCU Game of the Week after this.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I am your host, Les Swartz. The man to my right, Al the Rattler Chester, voice of the Florida A&M Rattlers on the radio broadcast, football and basketball, and also a national championship quarterback in 1978. They beat my UMass Minutemen 35-28. Al, what a tremendous guy. What a great interview.
Man, I tell you what, we could do 2 or 3 parts with Doug, man. He's a wealth of knowledge and a whole bunch of experience. And I really hope that we've got some young fellows who listen to our show here today and listen to this guy, man, talk about all the things that he's done and the experiences that he's gone through. And I mean, it's just a tremendous honor to have him on our show.
Well, we hope to have Doug back again. I thought he was fantastic. So let's you reach out to him for us, and hopefully we can grab Doug back during the NFL season and talk a little NFL football. We didn't get a chance to talk, NIL. We didn't get a chance to talk transfer portal. So we can do that when he comes back. But we have a new thing going to be coming up starting this week. It's the HBCU Game of the Week. We're going to highlight one HBCU. Wow, look at Tony. You just outdo yourself, man. He is good.
That's sweet, Tony.
He's good, right? I mean, ABC's got nothing on Tony. So we got the HBCU Game of the Week. This week it's going to be where you are, Al. You're going to be broadcasting that thing live from Atlanta. It's the Florida A&M Rattlers against the Norfolk State. I'm not sure what Norfolk State's nickname is, but you might.
Spartans.
The Spartans. And
yep.
I don't know much about these teams, so I'm going to leave it up to you. What is FAMU facing in Norfolk State?
Well, this is the MEAC SWAC Challenge, and it's going to be played on Saturday, 7:30 kickoff in Atlanta, Georgia, at Georgia State Stadium. It's covered by ABC/ESPN. The FAMU Rattlers have a new coach. They're defending national champions, have a new coach in James Cozy III. Willie Simmons, who has been doing great things there for the last 5-6 years now, is the assistant coach up at Duke University. We lost a lot of players. We lost our 2-year starter at quarterback. But we were able to pick up, like all the schools, a bunch of players from the portal and backfill some of these slots. I've had a chance to see them practice a couple of times. I'm expecting great things. We got speed outside. We got a quarterback who was named Daniel Richardson. He's an FAU transfer. He's an accomplished kid. He's got over 7,000 yards passing, about 54 touchdowns in his college career. And he was in a heated battle with Junior Marilovich. And I tell you what, we're going to need 2 quarterbacks before the season is over, I'm sure. But the Rattlers finished 8-0 last season in the conference, 12-1 overall, and end up being national champs. But now they got to face a team coached by Dawson Odom, who is one of the seasoned coaches in black college football. He's been at Southern. I think he's been at Grambling. His team only won 4 games, I think, last year. They picked to finish 5th this season. They were 1-4 in conference play, 3-8 overall last season. But they're going to be a challenge. They got great players. Their quarterback, who was supposed to start on Saturday, just found out yesterday he's got to sit out 4 games. Not sure what the reason is, but they got another kid named Jalen Daniels, who they believe can get it done too. He can throw the football around. They can run the football, and they happen to have a backup quarterback who used to play for Florida A&M, and hopefully we may see him as well. But I'm expecting a big sellout crowd. Atlanta's going to be jumping this weekend, and we're going to see how these teams prepare themselves and get ready to play and kick this season off in black college football.
Now, the Rattlers, just previewing this year's team, and based on what you've seen in practice, more run-heavy, or are they going to throw the ball like they did last year? And defensively, are they going to be pretty stout defensively?
Well, I tell you what, defensively, we've been lights out for the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, these guys have been killers. You're talking about some guys who swarm They tackle well. They rap. On offense, we're gonna be balanced. I think we can run the football, but we got guys who can run up and down the field. We got a quarterback who can throw. He make good decisions. I mean, nickel and dime. We can throw the big one over the top. I think you're gonna see a much improved offensive line. They're much bigger this year. I saw some guys, man, that I'm glad I don't have to feed them guys, man. But I tell you what, they're big guys, and that's where it all starts up front. Now, Doug talked about that too. On offense and defense, you got to have people to push around. I don't care who's playing quarterback, who's running the football. You got to have people pushing folks around up front. And I think we've got them up front this year. It's going to be exciting to see. I'm expecting great things. I think that, it's a lot of naysayers, but they have the potential to repeat and go back to the national championship again this year.
So the kickoff 7:30 on ABC this Saturday night. I know you'll be on the pregame show and the radio broadcast. It's 7 p.m. with Melvin. So
Melvin
Beal. So we'll be tuning in. Hey, you got to say a quick hello during the broadcast now. You got to give STS some love, baby.
I promise you. I'll give you a shout out.
All right, you got to give us a shout out. Well, listen, we're going to be doing this every week, so I'm pretty psyched about this, Al. So next week we'll pick another HBCU game. Might be the one Doug was talking about out in Canton, Ohio. We'll check it out.
We'll make it happen.
And by the way, we love that backdrop. I love that new backdrop. You're looking, Miller.
How about that?
You got the Rattlers, man. You got the Rattlers front and center. But listen, again, thanks so much for hooking us up with Doug. That was a great interview. You have a fantastic week. Safe travels down to Atlanta and have a successful game on Saturday night. We will be tuning in.
All right, my man. You guys be safe. Enjoy.
All right, that was Al Chester, HBCU Game of the Week, Florida A&M, Norfolk State. We'll be back with Benny the Book after this.
Locals Tavern, Leland, North Carolina's favorite neighborhood bar, just south of the bridge where everyone truly does know your name, offers a variety of cold brews, wine, and specialty cocktails, and offers something for everyone on their food menu. With daily lunch specials and live evening entertainment, Locals is a hot spot you won't want to miss, where you can unwind in a casual atmosphere with friends, both old and new.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. The man to my right, a legend in his own mind, Benny the Book. There he is, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
the
Les.
King of Carolina.
Great job by Doug. Really tremendous individual. His football feats speak for themselves. But you know what you say. He has that right attitude about life. Work hard. He gave praise to everybody that helped him get to where he was. Really, very good individual.
Class act, Benny. Class act.
I think they got a good one there, and I figured he'd be talking to Jaden a little bit, Daniels, give him a few tips there, but
couldn't hurt.
But it was a very good information, and I like to see him on again.
Well, we're going to do our best to get him back during the season. But let's tease a little bit about next week. So, you're going to be picking every week. We're going to start it next Wednesday night on the 28th. We have Bob Harris coming on talking college football. Benny, You're going to be picking the top 5 games. We teased it a little bit last week, but you'll have the top 5 games and also throw in a couple of Benny's best picks as well, next week. But right now we get the NFL, and then you're going to start the season picking, I think it's our show on the 4th, which is going to be the NFL
Thursday.
picks.
They got a Thursday night game and a Friday night game this year to start off the NFL, and really excited. It's going to be a great college football season. It really is. I think going to the 12 teams, it's going to make it for really. It's going to be a lot more exciting because there's going to be a lot of teams. I mean, 2 losses aren't going to kill you.
Right.
You could lose late in the year. It really is not going to make a difference. If you're a great team and you happen to lose, like in the SEC, you lose in a championship game, and then you get out of the top 4. It's not going to be like this year. It should be really interesting. And looking forward, I think there's going to be some good teams. West Virginia. looking good.
Well, there's going to be, I think week to week, Benny, with it's going to be playoff positioning. It's going to be like you said, if you lose early and if you lose a tough conference game, you're not necessarily knocked out of a playoff position. So I think you're going to have a good 16 teams fighting for those 12 spots, and it's going to move throughout the year. We'll see how it goes. But real quick, with you in the NFL, a lot of news coming out, and I want to get your take on it. A couple of quarterback positions and races have been won. The Raiders recently named Gardner Minshew III as their starting quarterback. Today, Denver announces Bo Nix, the rookie, is going to be starting. Commanders, like Doug Williams said, Jaden Daniels is going to be starting. The Bears, it looks like Caleb Williams. That's a lock. So, difficult to start rookies at that point, or do you think they're going to jump right in and be successful?
I think they're going to be. They'll take their lumps a little bit, but I think like Doug said, he goes, this is a unique quarterback draft. They got some really good guys. Bo Nix, he's seasoned. He's played a lot of college football games. So I anticipate him probably being the most ready. Jaden Daniels, I think he's going to be fine. I think Caleb Williams is going to have the hardest job because so much is expected of him. I mean, they expect him to carry that team. I think they'll be all right, but it's hard to win in the NFL, and the NFL rookie quarterbacks usually don't do very well, but we'll see.
Well, and there's also some notable holdouts as well that have not yet signed. A couple of asking for trades. You have Cincinnati's top wide receiver, Jamar Chase, who was Joe Burrow's go-to guy at LSU along with Justin Jefferson. He's been holding out. Brandon Ayuk out of San Francisco. He's been holding out. CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys. That's Dak Prescott's number one guy. And a guy that's very important to the San Francisco 49ers is Brock Purdy's safety blanket there. Trent Williams has been holding out as well. If these guys don't get signed by the opening season, do you think you could see some trades?
Well, from what I heard, Brandon Ayuk, New England wanted him. They offered him huge money, and he turned it down because he didn't want to go there. I think he specifically wants to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what I heard. I heard they offered him the money that he wanted, and he turned it down. So these guys. They want to go. They want to get their money, and they also want to go to where they want to go.
And Hassan Reddick with the Jets, who just gets traded by the Eagles, and now he wants to trade.
He just got traded to the Jets, and that was weeks ago. I heard that he wanted to get traded. I mean, he didn't even play. They didn't even play preseason games. I don't understand. That must be a contract. That's got to be a contract thing. That I think you mentioned it earlier when we were talking before the show. That they can't come to terms.
And Matthew Judon, who was the Patriots, I know he got hurt last year, torn bicep, I think, in the third or fourth week. But for 2 years, he was really the Patriots' number one pass rusher, double-digit sack guy. They couldn't come to terms, so they trade him to the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons, let's see what happens. If he plays well and he's not injured, the Falcons win that trade. If this guy does not bounce back from the torn bicep, then he is not the player he has been, then the Patriots probably got the better of that deal.
Yeah, the Falcons have got a lot of new players. They're looking to do things this year. You got to watch the Falcons, I think.
All right, so we're going to tease it up. So next Wednesday night, you're going to be here. You're going to do, like I said, your top 5 picks. We've got some marquee games out of the gate.
I'm going to concentrate on these marquee games. All these teams will be ranked, so there's a lot of big games. Everybody's ranked, and I got a few I'll throw in there.
And we're going to have Bob Harris on. Bob's been with us a couple of times last year, former all-SEC defensive back, and also 4 years in the NFL, 3 with the St. Louis Cardinals. So we're going to have Bob Harris on next Wednesday at 8 p.m. But, well, anyway, Ben, it was short. By the way, quick.
Play that at a new golf course today, Les.
And how did you enjoy it?
It was a very nice layout. I'd like to throw out a hello to Sean at Eagle Nest. Very, very, very picturesque golf course. I love the layout. They got a little rain the other day, and it was car path only, which made it a little tough because it's hard doing the, that. But very, very nice course. We'll have to go play there someday.
Look forward to it. By the way, Tony just threw it up. 900. We have 100 left to get to 1,000 subscribers. We hit our number 900 mark. So thank you so much to everyone out there who's been checking out the show. We have, I think next week might be a year since we've been doing the show. So it hasn't even been a year yet. 900 subscribers. So thank you so much. If it's your first time checking out the show, STS, Swartz Talkin Sports, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and please comment. And real quick, I wanted to throw something at you, Benny, real quick before we say goodnight. I watch a lot of podcasts out there, but there's one in particular that I really, really enjoy. And maybe one day we'll get him on the show. And that is Chris Nyland, the Ron Knuckles podcast. If you're an NHL guy, I find this guy fascinating. The guests he brings on are great, but I just love the way he interacts with his guests. He was known as an enforcer in his day, but I'd say he's hysterical. Find out something too. His first wife was the stepdaughter of Whitey Bulger, which is really and he does talk about that too. But so if you're out there and you like NHL and you want to hear some good podcasts, check out Chris Nyland's Ron Knuckles podcast. It's outstanding. So
if he ever had any problems while he was enforcing, he could enforce after. He could call his father-in-law and say, "I need a little help here." Yeah, I wouldn't want to get on the other side of Chris Nyland when that was going on. But listen, Benny, thanks for jumping on real quick. I know next week's going to be a big one for you. We open up with college football. Really looking forward to next week, Les. All right. Well, listen, you have a good week. And we were going to go do the wrap, but I think we're all set we're all set. We're going to do the wrap right now. So for our special guest, Doug Williams, for Al the Rattler Chester, Benny the Bookster Millie, Tony the Tiger Smeraldi, my Joni Chat Girl, back in the saddle, thank God. This is Les Swartz, everyone here at Swartz Talkin Sports. Thank you, everyone out there, and have a great night.